This week on Rough Times, we're talking about the drumline that won, that shouldn't have, and we prove it with science. And we're also talking about recruiting for your ensemble, whether it's high school or drum corps, getting kids in the door, selling them on band, and getting them to stick with it. All right, let's get into this. We're going to have opinions and we're going to upset people. What's the drumline that won that didn't deserve to?
Oh, God.
Who wants to go first?
Not it.
If I go first and we end up choosing the same one, I win, right?
Yeah, he has to come up with something else.
But you know which one I'm going to say.
Say it. Say it.
Apparently, I said it out loud first. Now I'll give. I've got alternates here.
I don't know what it is.
Guys, do rock paper scissors for it.
Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Mark.
Me? I don't. Because I'm like.
I'll go first so I can forfeit my pick to Mark. This is actually my second pick, but I think it applies as well. I'm going to go back to the last century.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So old.
I know, right?
If I could turn back time.
So we're going back to bugles.
Actually, yeah. Maybe back to bugles. So
back in the land of bugles before electronics.
The land before bugles.
Before bugles.
When drum corps was actually good.
When
drum corps was drum corps. So, and my pick is not necessarily me having poopy britches over the 99 season, because it's not like we had a prayer of meeting these folks anyway. So
Ryan marched in the blue coats in 1999.
You said it out loud, didn't you?
I did.
But 99 is a weird year because we were just starting to experiment with how you actually should approach drums in a healthy way and to create better sounds on a drum the way a drum is supposed to sound. This is when snare drums actually started to sound like snare drums again. And you saw a little bit of that in Vanguard. You know, they started to play with a lot more upstroke, and rebound was important. And amidst all this stuff, you have the Cavaliers with Brett Kuhn, who are still playing heavy downstrokes. Nearly, I don't know why that transferred over from the James Campbell years, but heavy downstroke, playing flat to the drums, and it sounds like it sounds bad. And frankly, I think the sound quality the Cavaliers produce is, back then, by the way, was abysmal in comparison to what Vanguard had going for it. It was just so new. I mean, that, by the way, 99 was the year that the Black Max was introduced. That was the experimental head. In fact, we actually put them on the snares. By the way, I'm talking about snare lines. It's not just a snare line thing,
Typical
right?
snare drummer.
Right, yeah. We put these things on our drums, the blue coats, and we didn't know what to do with them. They were off in like 2 weeks because we're like, I don't know what this thing's supposed to sound like. Vanguard figured it out. Actually, Crossman figured it out. The experimental head was the first year for the Black Max. But yeah, Cavaliers were pretty mediocre.
You don't have them up. Who do you have up?
Vanguard.
Oh, you said that already.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's actually, so let me ask you this. Because do you think that's people didn't appreciate that approach yet? Because Vanguard just won in 98.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that's a good question. And to be fair, the other thing is I'm really looking at this battery centric. So that's probably it's probably not the most unbiased opinion. Because honestly, I have to review the front stuff from that time. But you know, Vanguard had that going for them too. Like you said, in '98, they were rewarded for that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's almost as if the abrasiveness of the Cavaliers outweighs the appreciation I have for Vanguard trying to do something different.
That's interesting. I don't. What I'll say about 99 is I remember Blue Devil's bass line. And I remember the beginning of the
Outrageous.
show.
They're great.
Yeah, I remember the beginning of the show with all those African drums or whatever. I don't surdos. Were they Brazilian? I don't remember what they were. Big drums they had in the field. That was a really cool moment. I remember that. A lot of percussion moments I remember from BD show. I remember Vanguard show. It's actually one of my favorite Vanguard shows of all time. I don't remember the Cavaliers at all. Like today. Like I remember that they had the highest drum score, but I don't remember the show at all. There's no moments from that show. However, fast forward 1 year, I love their 2000 percussion.
Oh, they're great.
Is
By the
that,
way,
is that show the 2000 show the one where they did like the big diamond and they were like rotating?
Oh, they're always
the diamond?
they're always doing the
first
diamond
year they
cutters.
did that. Yeah, I think that was the first year they really
Okay,
did that. Though.
all right.
Maybe
like,
they didn't.
Like I know it's not percussion.
They did
but that-
diamond cutters in like '95. I mean, those guys go back pretty far. That was like a Michael Gaines sort of signature.
Okay,
deal.
got it. Yeah, I don't know.
Was that
I don't think so.
the diamond cutter?
Yeah.
Who
Michael
did-
Gaines didn't write the drill in 95.
Got him.
Oh,
Got him.
ouch? Yeah.
No, but that was a thing.
I take that back. But yeah, Cavaliers were doing diamond cutters for
Okay. Yeah.
years.
I mean,
but
I think that looks pretty cool.
but I learned something.
Definitely look that up.
I think Michael
Michael Doherty's the
he wrote
composer for Niagara
composer for
Falls.
the- but it wasn't. Somebody else wrote the drill in 95. I think.
1995.
Yeah.
Oh, Tom
We're
Cruise.
talking about.
You say 1995 as if that was like the Dark Ages. 1990?
I don't know
You
if
mean
you're
like
gonna-
you mean
I don't know if you're
1863?
gonna find information like that on the internet. That predates the internet.
Yeah,
You're
kind of right.
gonna find it chiseled on the wall of a cave somewhere.
I'm checking my cave archives.
But you look at those 2000, 2001. Again, I'm looking at this battery centric, so this is not fair. Those Cavaliers lines, they still played like that. I mean, very impressive. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Their sound was they're
Actually-
impressive, rhythmically incredibly impressive. Sound wise, I just hate that sound. I hate that sound.
I actually, at least, I'm talking about 2000 because I watch that show a lot more. I like the sound. I don't like how hard they look they're working to make the sound.
There's that too. Yeah.
But I actually showed Alejandro some videos of that drum line just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it was sick.
Yeah, like.
But it looks it's different, isn't it?
I'm literally in between both because it's just like I grew up struggling to make sounds trying to play like that when there was an easier way the whole time.
Yeah, right?
And
Yeah.
like I learned from a lot of people that did play like that because that's what was generally accepted. But I just couldn't figure it out. Like it was just I'm very stubborn already. So like me trying to figure it out with my hands, I was like, why are people drumming like this? Like this doesn't make any sense. And then like eventually I was just like, well, I'm just bad. Which I mean to a degree was right. Like I just like maybe wasn't drumming enough because there were other people that were successful with these techniques and like these approaches. But it's just like he said, I'm not the biggest fan of the sound. Like I'm really a big fan of Vanguard sound and like
Big
the Blue
open
Knights.
sound.
Yeah, the big like letting the drums sing, letting like working with the instrument instead of kind of making the like forcing the instrument to do what you want. It feels like it's more what's the thing that they do with organisms, the relationship that organisms have when it's mutual for both? Symbiotic. Yeah, I feel like
we got the smarts today.
yeah, the relationship between you and like the snare drum should be more symbiotic, and I feel like it's not that when you play like that. Like,
Yeah, try me.
and it doesn't feel as good.
My mom's a bio professor. I know this stuff.
Heck yeah.
I don't know. I mean, one thing I do miss about that era is I don't know if this is a good thing or not because everything is definitely a lot more consistent from group to group now. But back then, what was kind of cool was you could tell who a group was by how they hit the drum.
That is very true.
Like, and you kind of lost that today, like, because everybody kind of agrees on how to play now.
It was a
But
weird.
that even that like old school like downstrokey technique, that wasn't exactly what the Cavaliers were doing. It was just the Cavaliers technique. Like they were a little bit, I'd say they were a little bit more wrist based than even like the more staccato downstroke technique that was just generally taught back then.
The Madison Scout style.
Yeah,
Pound the bejesus out of the drum.
Yeah, like Cavaliers had their own. Like it was nobody else looked like them even then. Like it was like the Cavaliers just had their own thing going on.
Did I say Madison Scouts?
No, I'm just saying.
I meant Madison Scouts. That's not what I said.
The official ruling on the drill designer for 95 Cavies is Greg Pocklacki.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
Potlocky.
You know, the only reason I remember that, I don't actually know that much other than I watched the VHS of the
Oh,
PBS recording.
over and over and over again.
And
Michael Cesario said it.
Michael Cesario said his name
Yeah,
because they did like the DNA thing. And
That's
I just remember
right.
Michael
yeah.
Gaines was 98 to 2011.
Yeah, I think Michael Gaines might have been on staff then, but I don't think he was.
He designed
designing
drill
it.
20 or 98 to 2011 for Cavies.
Because there were consistencies in design. Like there was definitely like some consistency there.
But we were growing up then as a sort of an organization. Like
Yeah,
I don't
before-
mean we. I mean like the drumline, like the percussion activity was going through some growing pains. I think, in a lot of ways, a bunch of us were sacrificial. Sacrificial lambs, I guess you could say, for the attempt at the new approach. But Vanguard sort of started nailing it and.
Well, for a long time, I just was like, I just can't figure it out. Like maybe, I mean, to an extent, I still kind of believe that there's some people that I'm sure that can figure out the technique and not suffer from it. But I was taught by like a lot of older cadets guys and like people that kind of did play like that. And most of those people that I know have tendonitis now. So that was
I was
enough-
gonna
that
ask you
was
the same
enough
thing, yeah.
for me to be like, oh, okay. Even if I couldn't figure it out, I'm really glad I didn't because like I would rather have been struggling trying to figure out how to drum outside of that because like I mean I already feel pain in my hands and I didn't even really try that hard to force myself to learn that approach.
The thing the thing you gotta understand about the Cavaliers back then though is they were actually like they had a clone factory underneath Rosemont where they were like growing the drummers and they were bred to play like that.
Have you ever?
They were all 6'2".
I would love to measure
They
them.
all they all had like they you know what I mean, like they were cloned for
It was one of
that
the
purpose.
requirements.
I don't know when
Like this-
I don't know
like-
when the Cavalier cloning factory went down.
Like to the
But,
inch, like to
yeah.
the same height, the same dimension. It is bizarre.
You think that was part of like the audition process?
Like,
Like, you
screen
gotta be X
screening, you have
tall.
to be at least this tall. to
Somebody
march.
once told me
Well, they
that
used to line the drums up, right? Like snare drums, they used to line them up. So
Well,
they-
everybody used to do that.
Well, it would make sense if like I mean if you're
They didn't have to do that though because they were all the same size. They lined up the bodies.
well, that's what I'm saying. Is like if you are doing that, it makes sense that you would audition with that parameter because like it's like oh we're gonna line the drums up anyway. It'd be a lot easier if we just had all guys the same height and like it would sound or there would be less problems.
that was a big rumor that was going around back then. Was they actually did.
I mean they do it for
They-
all
they-
other
your-
forms
they-
of
your
art,
height,
right? Like
your height was actually a criteria was one of the criteria for acceptance. I mean that two rumors that and then there's the Bob Barker rumor.
they
which
do it for sports.
We'll talk
they
about
do it
Bob
for all
Barker
these
some
other
other
things,
time,
so
but
makes sense.
All right, who else?
All right, I think mine's going to WGI. My pick is 2014 MCM.
They shouldn't have one.
They should have one. It was I think it was
Who did win?
Rhythm no.
the Broken City, I think.
No,
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 they
no.
weren't-
I
they weren't
just
a
had
thing
this
yet.
I
pulled
just
up.
had it. I have it right here somewhere. No, Broken City. Yeah, Broken City.
In 2014?
2014? I don't think
2014.
Broken City
Pulse.
existed. yet.
Pulse,
Pulse,
yeah,
Pulse,
yeah,
yeah.
it was Pulse.
Pulse. Yeah,
What was
But-
Pulse's show that year?
I have no clue.
I'm gonna look it up literally right now.
But
Did he have, like,
MCM's
the-
was the Eye is the Window to the Soul.
I remember the
Pulse, didn't
marimba
Pulse
line
have, like,
was
the-
crazy.
That show was
Ridiculous.
actually Pulse is really good this year. I don't remember what the show was. Oh, That Which Confines Us.
yeah, it's the box.
Yeah, with the boxes.
Oh,
they
yeah,
were
man, I don't know.
really good
I
that
don't know.
year.
I
But
mean,
MCM was also amazing.
I
Like,
could give it to you on the front ensemble thing. Though.
That's what
Music
I'm
City's
talking
front
about.
back then had like a. They had
There was a
like,
mystique.
like
touche.
I just remember like that was like one of my first experiences. That was
Me
actually
too.
my first experience of going to WGI and watching things live, and the intensity of the front ensemble alone was like jaw dropping. It was
Yeah, there was
crazy.
a couple years back, like I don't know.
It was 14
13.
and 15.
Yeah, their front ensemble, especially
Man,
the marimba line.
I
was
love Pulse that
sick.
year.
Sick. That was a good show though. Pulse had a really.
I
good show.
watched that show live. That was the first WGI show, like championship show that I watched. It was the first year I went out WGI. Like, I was the first year I March United too, and it was the first year I ever went out to WGI. Like, going out with World Class was my first WGI experience, period. So I didn't know what to expect. I was like, oh, I'm in World Class, and then I saw them, and I'm like, oh, like these guys are in Galactic Class. Like these, like I saw that show, and I literally, like, I couldn't even process it. Like, I didn't know enough to know what was going on. I just knew that I was like falling in love with the activity. I love that show though. And the way they end it is so sick when they're hanging upside down and playing the snare feature or whatever, like the big feature at the end. It's so
Oh, that
sick.
was- yeah, I mean, I think MCM. Was just,
That's hard because like I agree with Zach on like a lot of the it's like it's not that they didn't deserve to win. It's just like I would have wanted. I mean, I guess segueing into mine like 20. Oh my god, I just had it. Was it 2018? 2018 Broken City. RCC was amazing. Like we mentioned earlier about how like We don't know if like we were against people trying new things. Like they were both just so new. Like even Broken City, even though they kind of play like the same, not the same motifs, but like the same abstract ideas and kind of the same musical ideas in a lot of ways. Like it's still very different compared to a lot of WGI shows that came before it. And I like it was the year they did the double left hand ping shot. And it was like stuff like, even though that's like super simple and like not like the biggest deal, it like you said before, I think you guys mentioned it, where it's like nobody remembers 1999, was it Cavaliers? Yeah. That we had said nobody really, like a lot of people that I talk about only remember Broken City that year, amongst a ton of other WGI shows. They just like, oh, I just remember Broken City, double left hand shot, show concept, uniforms. Like the lot was ridiculous. Like the lot, you had to, like if I had to walk through the crowd, I would have had to have walked at least a solid 45 seconds to get to where they were. Like it was literally a massive culmination of people. Like it was an unreal experience.
Wow, that sounds crazy.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was I had to like jump over people to try to watch them. But then I was just watching RCC before we started, and they were also amazing. So it's not that I don't think RCC deserved to win. I think they were both. It really could have gone either way. But a lot of the people that I talked to said that Broken City just wasn't as clean as they were the other 2 days, and RCC just had it that night. And I believe that. But for DCI, I agree. Like even in 2019, when BD got the perfect score, like I don't know if perfection was really called for, but I definitely think they should have taken it over Vanguard. But we've had conversations about how like their front ensembles were in different leagues altogether. So I don't really understand that too much. But I remember watching BD in the lot as a fully grown performer, educator, whatever, aficionado of the activity, and I was like, wow, these guys are doing unreal like things, like some of the rhythms I just didn't understand, and like the demand. I mean, a couple years back, BD was moonwalking and playing snare drum. Like that is unreal. Like I don't know anybody that can do that. Like
Penn State Indoor did it first.
Yeah, it didn't. Yeah,
but they didn't play what BD was playing. Like
you have to review the tapes.
Yeah. But like for me, definitely Broken City 2018. I mean, it could have gone either way, but wow, the energy! Like I had never experienced something like that. I mean, I guess I'm not gonna say never. It's been in different forms, but like it was such a crazy accumulation of just like hype for the activity. Watching them live.
Do you think the novelty of just straight up demand wears off after a while? I mean, granted, that was probably one of the first displays that we've had of like, dude, like they can just play left hand shots on demand flawlessly. Mm-hmm. Cool. My issue I always have with, okay, when it was introduced, it was a novelty, and I think the demand was the appeal, right? I think after a while, though, I think we were talking about this before we turned the mics on. Demand to me doesn't necessarily equate to entertaining.
Yeah, I think we're getting to that point. Like Mark was pointing out, where it's like
exactly.
People are drumming on a level that they probably never have before. Like some of the stuff you see these ensembles playing is unreal. And it's getting to the point where it's like, all right, these kids can clearly play anything you hand them.
The
like,
unlimited palette.
We have
the
to.
Palette
now there has to be some other way of doing things. I mean, you see it in movies and everything. Like, I mean, you just take, I'm nitpicking, a Marvel movie. They have unlimited money and unlimited resources, and some of them are still awful. So it's like, where does it?
You're right, because what a weird situation to be in, where you can't, you have almost flawless CGI, right? And now it's gonna. How do you up the game so that people remain interested?
Conceptually,
right.
execution. I mean,
maybe they could like write a good plot and do.
Yeah,
that's true.
Good acting.
Good.
Maybe.
Maybe some good movies.
Maybe,
so what
would
change?
Maybe not Michael Bay everything.
So what would be the equivalent? What would be the equivalent to the activity for that? Like, what would good CGI and good acting be to them? Would it be innovation in writing?
I think that, but I don't even think it needs to be innovative. It could just be like what people like. I think a lot of the reason you don't see that is because the judges don't reward it. So it doesn't like.
So what do people like? What do you think people like?
Well, like for instance, I mean I think people. I'm biased here, obviously, but people hype like percussion features and drum solos. But a lot of that gets. Sometimes it's okay to just park and play cool stuff, but you can't do that and compete because the judging community doesn't reward that.
I don't think that's true though, because Vanguard does that all the time and wins all the time. Like they literally, they do very arguably the least amount of body compared to everybody else, and they literally just like swing side to side and win drums. So like I don't know if that's it, because I used to say the same thing. I'd be like, well, anybody can stand still and drum well, but they're drumming so well that it's almost not even an argument. It's like, yeah, they're standing still and not moonwalking like BD is, but they're playing on such a, I don't know, like microbial level that like the sound is just so, I guess like the reward from parking and playing. I mean, I'm sure if you asked them to move and play, they'd be able to do it just as well, maybe. But like the achievement from the sound and the playing is just so much more monumental than the achievement of playing and moving, that I think like the judges are just like, we can't not give it to them.
It's true.
But I also think that they can also do that because they have a front ensemble that's in their own league.
So I have a question for you guys.
Because I do think other batteries play with them. I'm not sure.
With the Vanguard battery.
Yeah, I'm not sure that other front ensembles do.
So what's the difference there?
Just content, achievement, musicality.
All of it? The whole package?
Like sometimes the rumors play stuff and I'm like, how are they?
But it's not even just the content they're playing. It's that it's interesting to listen to. It's not just, Vanguard is high demand and highly satisfying. I take like a Broken City, and it's high demand and meh. Like, cool. Like you did technical things that we've never done before.
But
I'm not gonna replay it.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you did it.
But see, that's the thing is like, I've met a lot of people that do think the same way, but generally, like if we're appealing to the public loves Broken City. Like Broken City is arguably
you think so?
the most popular drum line in WGI. Like, they're more popular. Rhythm X used to be like those guys where people were like, oh, that's Rhythm X. Like now, like people would leave the Rhythm X lot to go to watch Broken City. Like Broken City would start setting up and they would vacuum like a black hole the audience from all the other percussion sections, and like that they would be it. So like I think maybe because you're more seasoned and you understand things more, and you understand like a lot of people, when it's just I don't want to say just novelty, but like innovation and things they've never heard, people are kind of like absorbed by that. But you guys have been around long enough to have heard that in different contexts.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm not impressed. I'm very impressed.
Yeah. But I think they probably just put more value in that than, I mean, because the execution, like we said, like even though they're playing arguably more than Vanguard or these other ensembles in terms of batteries, like they're not achieving at the same level. And for a lot of people, achievement is more important than what they're playing. It's like, oh, are you achieving this? And Vanguard achieves it almost all the time. Like, so
yeah. I mean, I will say though, like even with Vanguard, and I'm not suggesting that I know better or anything like that, but I do find that, especially, I don't know, maybe it's just the last couple of years I've felt like this. It gets a little formulaic.
What makes it formulaic though? Because I'm sure like people, I always hear people. I mean, we're in a room where people can justify it, but every time I try to have these conversations, people will just be like, "Oh, they'll just say things like that and not say why."
You talking about the Renix of formulaic, or
for the people that wouldn't like understand what that means? What does that mean?
Just like the books from year to year are starting to sound very similar.
Is it like just the way he like his writing style?
Well, I don't think it's. I mean, some of it, yeah. There's definitely like some Renicisms in there, but I also think that some of it's just the nature of the activity, where I didn't get to my thing yet before I wanted to go into this, but
sorry.
I think it's balancing for the sake of competitiveness. A lot of times, what's happening is we are playing notes that don't make sense musically to win best boom booms. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like the rule change that happened a couple of years ago where like the percussion judge was in the box, so now the battery just comes to the front of the field and plays.
No, they're not in the box. They're on the sideline.
Yeah.
But they don't go
Oh,
on
they're
the
not
field.
they're not that.
But that's some of that GE stuff they were talking about the other week where like
they have parody videos for McNutt. Somebody will be like, I think it's all like the McNutt special or something.
That rhythm we were diggity-diggity-dack.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm not against 1 and a 2 and 3 and a 4 and I love that rhythm. I love those things, but it's like, I mean, there comes a point where it's like if it just becomes a part of your writing style, like I guess there's only so many ways you can write music, right? There's only so many rhythms you can write, and there's only so many things like.
Well, there's only so many ways you can write 1 and a 2 and 3.
Yeah, but like even Blue Knights, like they always have like a ostinato or some kind of motif every year, and it's different every year. Like, what was it? I don't know if it was this past. Yeah, in 2019, they had the bass line, the quad line, and the snare line playing I think it was a triplet roll all together. And if you go to a high school competition and see that, somebody would have been like, why would anybody ever write that? Like the whole drum line's playing a triplet roll. Bass 5, everybody. Like, everybody's playing a triplet roll. And they do a turnaround, and it's like a crescendo and a decrescendo, and it's like, but because they did it and the way they did it, like it was really good. And it was like I had never seen something that I just felt so conflicted of, like, do I think this is good? Because like I never even thought about something like, I never thought about just making the whole percussion section play a role, or the whole battery play a role together. Like that I've never seen that done. Maybe it's just because of my limited experience and only being involved in the activity for 10 years, I guess, ish. But like I've never seen that done where everybody just plays a triplet role, including bass 5, and they did it. And it's like I didn't know if I was like, again, I was like, this is I don't know if I was like over exaggerating, but I was like, this is genius, because I saw it in person and it was so cool. It was just like a moment that I had never felt had been created in front of me by any other like drumline, because like no other drumline has done that in front of me as far as I've experienced.
If you didn't know that, would you still appreciate it as much?
That's what
like
I'm
if
saying.
You had if you had no context, right? It's like that they just play the same thing.
Well, I would have for the achievement. It was like, wow, that bottom bass was.
But achievement aside, let's pretend like you don't have the context to even understand achievement. You're like that.
Like if I just know nothing
awesome.
about drums.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I would have been like, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, like they're all playing the same thing together, and they all did it so like synonymously. Like it was crazy. I don't know. I even like because there were people complaining about it. It's like, well, they're just playing a triplet roll. It's like, yeah, but like, I guess the risk, it's like, I mean, maybe because of his name or whatever, you know, the organization, and they've had a bunch of good years before them. But it's like, I've never seen another top contending like top 5 contending drumline, top 8 or whatever they're at now, do something like that. Like I've never seen Boston do something like that. I've never seen Cadets do something like that. Like I've never seen Blue Coats, any of those people do anything like that. So I guess are they getting to the point where it's just getting so outlandish where they're just trying like everything, or is that just a part of his writing style? Like,
I mean, to be fair, I think everybody likes to think that, man, it's the best it's ever been, and we're like, I actually think that is a way of thinking that's kind of flawed. I don't think that we're playing the most notes ever. I think like some early 90s drumlines ram notes that like chops for days. I don't know that that's better than it's ever been. I think it's kind of cyclical, because you saw that in the early 90s and then it kind of tapered off. I was actually going to segue into like my favorite percussion arranger of all time is Jim Casella. And what I don't like about where we're at right now with things is a book like that wouldn't be very competitive today, because it's not notes in your face the whole time. Because it was definitely very music first. But what I loved about those books is you could just listen to the battery and that's it. And you could hear the music. Like you could hear what song they were playing inside of the battery writing. And nobody really does that today.
That sounds really neat. Honestly.
Yeah, it's super cool. Like I just so much thought was put into color and texture and motif and music form. I mean, there's another thing you don't see a lot of is actual music form. Not being afraid to repeat a phrase.
yeah.
You know, like how many drumlines do you see actually repeat a
That's what I'm
4-bar
saying.
or 8-bar phrase
That's
anymore?
what I'm saying. Blue Knights does. Like they do that. Like they and people give them a lot of like
And
crap for it.
people-
Like they'll
But
be
I
like,
also think people love it. I
yo,
mean,
the people that like understand, like you said, like want to hear the music. Like I watched the battery videos so many times that when I watch their show, I was like, I know exactly where this is in the battery book. Like it's because I always forget who writes it. It's Mike Jackson. But like they did such an amazing, like, because like I said before, like I've never experienced that. Like when I watch Cadets, like we were making the comment like unless they're playing like something that like I've watched the show a bunch of times over, like I don't ever know where they're at in the show. Like I've watched a ton of Blue Coat, I don't ever know where they're at in the show, like with any of their music, because I mean I'm also, I think, not educated enough overall to like really, I'm sure somebody who really has the background would be able to kind of pick up the cues and like the motifs, but like on Blue Knights, like I didn't even have to try. It was so clearly like, this is where we're at in the music. Like this is where we're writing this. This is like where everybody plays together. And it's, I mean, I don't know. I enjoyed that a lot. And my friends always make fun of me because it's like, oh, you just like to hype like drum lines that play crescendos and decrescendos, which I do. But like the whole writing, the percussion or the battery book around the music is really cool to me, because it doesn't feel like you said it's just like drumline. It's just like ramming notes.
Yeah.
But Vanguard didn't play much. That's another thing. Is like Vanguard didn't play much their last year when they won. So like, you think he's moving away from that? Like they didn't really play nearly as much as BD. Like I mean, I'm just obviously talking
are you
strictly
talking
battery.
about what are you talking about? Didn't play as much like
Notes. We were just talking about ramming notes. Like they didn't play. They played like a lot of like PDDs and triplet rolls and like.
But there's still notes. It's still it's still a lot of density. Like I mean like the drum line's just playing and
you mean
playing
like
and playing.
overall like if the show's 100%, they're playing like 97% of the show.
I mean, not like a stopwatch per se, but like when they're playing, I just
There's no space.
and there's just not a lot of and I'm not specifically talking about Vanguard, just anybody. It's so much for getting points. You know what I mean? And not about like what's gonna make the overall show the best. What's gonna make
Do you think that's just because that idea like overpowers the other idea? Like if you think everybody started doing more things like the Blue Knights, then the judges would start appreciating that.
I
stuff
honestly
more?
think they will, because like I think the activity goes in cycles.
Well, I was gonna say, you think
Like,
it's because
you
it's
know,
cyclical, or because people will start doing it?
In 03,
Well, I guess
for
it's the
instance, or 2002. Well, I forget which year that Vanguard slanted the drums again, but everybody was like, "Oh, they're slanting the drums. That's so new." I was like, they just did that in like '98.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And like people, when something's happening right now, everybody thinks it's new. I think a lot of that is because a lot of people in the activity paying attention to it are young. But I think that you see these trends and they change over time, but it's kind of cyclical. Like,
Well, it's like fashion, right?
Well, and, like,
denim
everybody-
jackets and all these other things
and
that were
every-
really not in fashion before, and they're back in, and bell-bottom jeans.
the whole
and
conversation
Converse.
about crazy uniforms. Go back and look at drumcore in the '80s.
Yeah.
Sequins for days.
Or like the Bridgman jackets. Like there's some stuff in the '80s, and I was like, ooh.
No, but what I do think is disturbing about the idea of hyping demand, like if that's really the benchmark, right? It's like, my analogy I could use is something like, we've stopped watching baseball in favor of watching home run derbies. Like,
Well,
we're ignoring the activity and focusing on
Michael Bay. That's really what it feels
Yeah.
like. You said you brought it up earlier.
Yeah,
and it's like,
you're
it's
right.
like we're Michael Baying everything.
yeah.
But I also don't want to discredit the achievement of a lot of these things. And
don't
like,
get me
chalk it up
wrong.
to, because demand is still very hard. Like, it's still always a conversation between chops and musicality. You still need chops. Like, it's like chops is still very, very impressive. But at the same time, I do enjoy space. I like, even when I watch high school drum lines, like if I see somebody just playing a lot of notes, I usually just walk away and try to find drum lines that play space, because I like space.
I'm
so much
not
more.
talking about the performance of the musician. Like, I think that they're as expressive as, especially in Vanguard. I think they're extremely consistent from player to player in the sound they produce,
Yeah.
and they're very
Amazing.
nuanced. Their touch is awesome. I think better than the Casella years, but I think the orchestration of the Casella years was more.
And you think he was just a genius, or like people are just
I think
getting?
he was just.
I mean, he is.
It was just so musically appropriate, like on a level outside of drumcore. Like, it would have fit. Sometimes I think like some of the notes, especially in the drumline side of this, we play stuff that we would only do in this specific musical.
Oh my god, I have a
application.
whole segue. Yes,
Actually, can I add something in here
Yeah.
really quick? Yeah, I just like, I don't know, maybe it's just like me personally and my taste, but like it sounds more entertaining to me when I can like you guys are talking about, like, hear the music in the drum line, because like you can play beats on a drum, you know, like drum beats, woohoo, cool. But like I think it's really cool when we can take like just a drum and like how can we like bend this sound and make something like really, really cool, you know?
Yeah, have you ever watched snare drum solos in I&E at individual and ensemble?
I don't. Yeah,
They're
man.
awful. They're
Some of
terrible.
them are pretty
It's- I mean, super tough, but it's like, it's a headache. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a 3-minute long headache.
Yeah.
Just
I-
put on headphones and listen to it and don't watch it.
Right.
Like
So
it's-
to your point is, man, that guy's got hands, but like if I just turn the volume down and watch, it's better for my headache just to watch the demand happen rather than like.
It's like
you
a lot
can-
of metal music. Like, I appreciate the technical skill of what some of those guys can do. They can play 64th notes on the
Insane.
bass drum.
Yeah,
without
for sure.
Really,
I
really,
completely
really,
with
like-
you.
really
Yeah.
crazy. But as far as musical, like, wanting to listen to it, I could put my head in a trash can and hit it with a hammer.
That's right.
And get the
Yeah,
same, like,
exactly. Like
like
ultimately,
getting punched in the face for 10 minutes.
like, you know, without going like too deep into this and sounding like, oh yeah, look, I'm a college kid. Oh my gosh, I'm so deep. But like music is supposed to like bring out an emotion, right? And like, what kind of emotion are you getting from like blah 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 blah, blah you know.
I was gonna say, I don't know. I'm a huge fan of metal and punk, so like when I go to shows and see these people live, I do feel a lot of things.
Okay,
especially
I guess
in a
that-
mosh
yeah.
pit when I'm getting punched
I
in the
guess, I
face.
guess,
but no. I get what you're saying.
know what you mean.
Yeah.
Like in a situation where it's like notes versus musicality, I definitely like.
Anytime you're
personally
craving
just
a
lean-
punch to the face, you just gotta let me know.
I'd say the thing that I've actually missed the most is like besides drumcore, obviously, is like going to concerts. But like I was scrolling through TikTok, trying to do more research on TikTok to like do the stuff on the Jira or whatever, and I saw this guy where he was like what's one thing that like people don't want to talk about education, and it had to do with music education. It's like we train these kids to learn music as early as they can and understand music as early as they can so they can apply it and put them in these ensembles, these bands, these winds, these choral ensembles or whatever, for them to use the application into these things that nobody really plays anymore, instead of like how music is like understood and distributed and like played today. So it's like they were arguing like we should teach them how you could apply these things in like modern day
300
music
years ago?
as opposed to just throwing them in classical ensembles that nobody like really cares about anymore, nobody really does anything with anymore. Like you're just kind of framing them around this, like that's how you get the Ben Shapiro opinions of the world, where he's like, you know, rap music isn't real music, only classical music's real music, and it's like you can't really.
I don't think I've ever heard. Have you ever heard Ben Shapiro say that?
No, he literally said
Yeah,
that.
he
Yeah.
did.
He when he
did
came
a-
out,
he did a
because he's a
whole
classical
podcast on
musician,
that.
he was like, oh, like rap's not real music. It, like real music is classical music. Like that has this, and this, and it's like you can't really say those things because like. I mean, you could argue that class, like in a couple. I mean, I'm sure in like a century or two, like people will. I find less and less people listen to classical music as time goes on, because the people that do get involved with music get involved with modern music.
This is a whole other topic we should say.
We should.
The,
Yeah.
the,
For
the
sure,
issue,
for
the
sure.
issue being that
I just want to get to talk about my drumline.
Let's
that's-
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're
But
right.
yes, so I was segueing.
so Mark's now going to talk about the drumline that I chose, and he's
Actually, I'm not gonna lie. I this came out of a conversation with Grant a couple days ago. That's the whole reason I wanted to pick this topic, and he brought that up to me. You arrived in the same place without any prompting.
so it has to be that's like
So
justification
it must
of
be
truth, right?
It must
yeah.
be. It's science.
Okay.
All right, but I'm going to go a little deeper with this one. This
Okay.
isn't just my opinion on this. It's a conspiracy theory.
Go deep, Mark.
This is
Very
a YouTube conspiracy theory. So here's what I think happened. Look up who was judging drums in DCI in 2007.
2007.
2007.
For championships?
Yeah. So here's my thing. Not only I'm sorry, not sorry, but I'm just gonna have an opinion. It's gonna hurt some people. But the Blue Devils should have not won drums. Not only should they not have won, they shouldn't have gotten second. They shouldn't have gotten third.
2007.
They should have gotten fourth. Yeah, and I'm gonna say that.
What order did you put first, second, and third in?
I'm
so I have
thinking
context.
first. I'm gonna go with Phantom Regiment. I think that was one of Paul Rennick's best ensembles ever. I think they were disgustingly good that year. And I also think Bluecoats had one of their best lines ever. The only reason I
were really good that
I
year.
would nudge Phantom into that top spot is I think the front ensemble was just a little bit higher level skills happening in the front ensemble.
I don't think Bluecoats or Blue Devils could have contended with either of those front ensembles.
What's that?
Phantom and Phantom. I don't think Bluecoats or Blue Devils front ensembles could have contended with the top. Well, Devils and what Cavaliers? Are they in there?
No, I actually would have Cadets in third.
Cadets. Okay.
Yeah.
Still, I would say the
2007,
same.
yeah, I
I would
loved
say
the
the same.
2007.
I would say the same thing.
That's probably my favorite cadet show of all
but-
time.
Was 2007 fan? Was that Spartacus, or was that?
No, that was 2008. 2007 was on air.
Okay, I haven't seen that. Sorry.
Well, you should just
I should.
should.
Okay. All right.
at least go watch review
Ben's
the
got
lot
homework.
videos. Review
I'm
the lot
gonna-
videos,
gonna take
especially
that.
that. There's some really cool things
Taking
in that
notes.
quad book. Specific quad links that stick out to me that were super awesome. But anyway,
Specific quad.
conspiracy theory about that. Here's what I think, and this is just me being an idiot. But I think that the drum judge was looking at the scenario playing out, and it looked like if he put the Blue Devils in fourth, the Cadets are going to win overall. And if the Cadets win overall, we're going to have to listen to shows with obnoxious narration and preaching for the next 10 years. So he took one for the team and put Blue Devils in first so that they would win. And
Cadets came in second, right?
and he saved drum corps
Oh, this is
for at least a couple years.
this is
Wait,
this
no,
is a
'cause
rabbit hole.
There's
So-
my theory.
Crown
what
did
is
it
it?
like in 2008, didn't they? They started narrating too.
What didn't Crown just
There
do
were,
that
so
too?
it was kind of like the new toy on the
Yeah,
scene.
yeah. After
And there was
2007.
There was some really, really bad, like cringy.
Yeah.
It's not just narration. It was.
I love 2007 cadets.
Yo, listen, I always.
I was a
whenever-
high school kid and I loved
Whenever,
it. I ate
and
it
by
up.
the way, Dave Dumont, I love you. I'm sorry. But
I
what
ate it up.
what I'll say about that is, the way I would describe the 2007 cadets is, what a waste of a really good drum corps.
Amen.
What?
Because
Amen.
I think the nuts and bolts of the show were great. The performers were awesome. Really good ensemble on the field. The narration and the stuff around it was so distracting and obnoxious that it just subtracted from it.
It's so absurdly abstract.
This, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's literally, I believe they should shut up.
Yeah.
But no, it was.
Oh, that's what that was. That
I
was
love
the
that show. Yeah,
the-
it was 2007.
Oh,
I
my
love
God.
that
Okay,
show.
no, so that wasn't abstract. Actually, that was pretty. They were pretty.
It was
blatant.
pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but absurd nonetheless.
Like there was
Yes.
one point where she's like walking down. She's like, "Here's the bass line," and they play a bass break. Like,
We've joked about. That
I mean,
show.
I don't
We've
know.
joked
man.
about writing that show.
I really didn't like. If we had to talk about things that are killing drum corps, I'd say hundreds of other things before narration. Like, I don't mean.
I don't think the narration was the issue. I think it was more of the absurdity of the sappiness.
You don't
was-
think
it
drum
was-
corps is sappy though? Like,
Well, that was certainly.
Oh, that was- yeah, that was-
that was the look how hard we work. Like, look at these kids achieving more than your kids. You know, our kid.
My kid made honor roll.
Yeah, that's what that show is. They made that show for bumper stickers.
that's pretty funny.
Nice.
I didn't think about it that way.
No, I don't know. I mean, I remember back then seeing it live. I was just like, oh, come on, guy.
I actually got
Why?
told to shut up. Like, as a kid, it was my first drum corps show. I went to back then Giant Stadium, now it's MetLife.
Yeah.
And I was so excited that I was literally like screaming after like the drum break, and I was like, yes. And this dude in front of me turns around, and he's like, shut the up, like, and I'm just like, I can't even like enjoy drum corps. I was like, is this what people are like? And like, I could see why. Like, they'd be like, oh, some annoying.
Well,
I think he thought I was trying to be annoying and like kind of just, but I was genuinely so overcome with hype because also my instructor at the time was in the snare line and I was a snare drummer. I was like, this is awesome. Like, that guy teaches me and I'm watching him like lay it down. Like, I was so ecstatic. And this dude, I was like, I remember getting out of that show and being like, man, thinking some bad thoughts about that person. But I was just like, how could you really just like yell at a kid for enjoying drum corps? Like, you talk about things killing drum corps, I'd say those things come way before.
Actually,
So,
if I can share too, I like this is gonna be super sappy, but like I got so it 2019 before COVID, I kind of got a similar feeling when I saw Sabres with like Vinny and Devin and all of them. I was like, oh hey, I know those guys, and this show kind of slaps. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like
Yeah.
I know how that feels.
Yeah.
like it's
So-
it's a cool feeling.
the
I know the guy who wrote that show. I'll let him
Yeah,
know.
wow.
yeah, he kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Kinda.
So your conspiracy, you said it's just to make sure I have it.
Who is
right.
it? Who is it, Zach?
Your who is your drumline, Mark?
2007 Blue Devils.
Blue Devils. That they shouldn't have won.
Yeah.
Right. So I think your conspiracy is actually has some substantial chance of being real because the DCI does not have the recap sheets of 2007 on their website anymore.
The conspiracy. They,
Just Denver airport level.
I'm glad you said that. I've been talking to Mark about the Denver airport.
What's
That's
the
another
other one?
topic.
I didn't even know about
Bohemian
all that
Grove. Bohemian Grove level. Alex Jones level.
oh,
We got to sneak into like a DCI judges meeting with a camera.
where are the 2007
Paddle or
recaps?
canoe on
They have
there.
them on like an altar.
They're buried.
They're buried.
If anybody out there can find the recaps from 2007, let me know.
It's like Luke in what is it, episode 8? The manuscripts.
This conspiracy just
Hey,
got real.
guys, can I get an Illuminati symbol into the cameras?
You're already doing it.
Well, anyway, there's
I
my
was trying to get like a group one. But
there's my theory on that. The only thing I want to talk about tonight was recruiting. There's some stories I wanted to share about recruiting because I think a lot of people, especially with high school, but even with drum corps or indoor, like struggle with the recruiting piece of it. And I've had a lot of people talk to me and ask me like what I do and stuff like that because I've had a lot of a lot of ensembles that started with nothing and filled out and actually were pretty good. One of them I remember like 2016 at Cabs when I was teaching there. I'll never forget. Like I was actually pretty lazy on the recruiting front after 2015 because we were really good. And I was like, I think we're good enough that the recruiting will take care of itself.
Psych.
I was
not the case.
I was completely wrong. At the first audition camp, there were 11 percussionists total.
Oh, yikes.
Like, we had one mallet player.
Really? I didn't know that. That's impressive.
Yeah,
Then
one mallet player at open house, and I think we had like 6 or 7 snare drummers, a quad, and like 2 bass drummers.
you hustled.
And then I was like, then I just got on the phone and started pounding pavement.
I do attribute half the battery section to myself. I did bring a ton of people. I did.
You did. You brought the United crew.
Yeah. That was most of the snare line. It wasn't really the rest of the battery. Is literally all snare drummers, I think.
And
Oliver, yeah,
Oliver,
so
the
his
quad
quads,
one.
yeah.
It's hard to fill out that front ensemble.
Yeah, I'm
worked hard
sure,
to find that front ensemble. But they ended up finishing, I think, 3rd.
Yeah,
It's pretty good.
I had a lot of fun.
But just some stories about that. Hey, one, I wanted to share the story of Max. So Max was a student that came in to the high school program at Williamsport, and he, we were looking for kids or something. We were like, I don't remember exactly, but we must have been light on numbers because I was talking to kids about recruiting their friends or whatever. And I was like, music background's great, but we'll teach them whatever. And this kid Max showed up because he was friends with somebody, I think maybe Sam. I don't know. Somebody brought him, and he played guitar. We didn't have guitars, but he didn't know that. But he showed up, and he's like, "Oh, I'm here. I play guitar." I was like, "Cool, man." I was like, "We don't have the guitar in yet, so why don't you like play the suspended cymbal?" And this went on for the whole season. And then 2 years later, he's in Caballero's snare line. And he's like, wait a minute.
It finally occurred to him. I've been duped.
We didn't get that
He's
guitar.
like, where's my guitar? Like, well, but I mean, I think some of it's is
Deception.
lies and deception. Chloroform, no. Disclaimer: do not use chloroform to recruit. But no, I think I think people focus too much when they're talking to kids about joining. They focus too much on like getting them to commit in the first conversation. I think a lot of it is where I've had success is just get them to a practice.
Yeah.
Just get them to a practice and do it for a night.
It's like talking to a woman and be like, "Hey, want to get married?"
Yeah.
It's like, I don't think that'll go well in
Mark
the
has
first
done that.
conversation.
That's
It's like,
actually,
"Hey, want to go to friendlies?"
That's kind of actually how I got lured. I just wore her down over time. But no, like just get them to go to rehearsal. Get them to go and see it. And we kind of talked about this last week too. Is like you have to show the kids what they're trying to do. Show them film, show them videos and stuff like that. But get a kid to go to rehearsal because a lot of kids have a preconceived notion of what marching band is, and it's not a good one.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot easier to get somebody to commit to 3 hours compared to what's been. It's like 7 years from now.
By the way, this is like human psychology stuff too. By the way, this is the same things that if you were ever pitched in a multi-level marketing program, it's the same concepts they would teach you. But it is true. It's human psychology. In this case, we're actually doing good for the world and not stripping you of all your money.
Depending on the drum.
Kind of does strip you of a lot of money.
Yeah, right. It's true. We're trying to avoid that too, aren't we?
That's what I was saying.
No, yeah, like just not in a dishonest way. Just like, but I just think if you try to hit them with too much all at once, it's scary. And I think like some of the reason for that is I think a bigger obstacle than anybody realizes is kids will say one thing, but what really is going on underneath the surface is fear.
Yeah,
like they're afraid of it. It's intimidating.
Especially kids.
Do I know anybody? They're all older than me. Stuff like that's going on, and you like what that will come out from their mouths is band's not cool. I don't like the hats.
Yeah,
I don't like the uniforms.
Yeah.
But what's really going on is it's just intimidating. What's less intimidating is like, hey, just come to a practice, check it out, see if whatever, we'll have fun.
Especially kids today, I feel like that, like with the age of social media and smartphones, kids especially are a lot less social than they used to be. So like getting out of their bubble is a lot more uncomfortable to them than it ever has been. So like they'll say stuff like you said, like, I don't want to wear the hats, or band is stupid, band is for geeks. But what they actually are saying is, I'm afraid to try new things.
Man, you sound older than me with that.
I hate
with that whole
smartphones.
statement. Yeah.
I hate it.
So, anybody got any other stories to add on to that? Recruiting successes?
I have a lot of complaints about people just blaming it on everything but like their efforts. Like always, we're always having these conversations how everybody be like, oh, well, the kids don't want to, or like, oh, I don't have the staff, or I don't have this, I don't have this. And it's like, you really want to do it, like the kids will pick up on that. It's like almost like the pheromone thing where like they can, if they smell the effort coming from you, they'll be like, oh, like this guy cares. Like if he cares, this might be more fun. Or like, or they smell it on like the other kids and be like, oh, like these kids also care. We could have a really good, even if they don't care about drums at all, like they could just literally not give like anything about drums. They could just want to go home and play Call of Duty all the time.
You heard it here on
like,
Rough Times. Recruit kids for band with pheromones.
I mean,
Well, like I guess the thing too with that is like trial by fire. You know, like that's I don't know. Like limitations breed creativity. You know, like I
Say
feel
that
like
again.
that's,
Limitations breed creativity.
Yeah.
Limitations.
what do you mean by
Well, okay.
limitations in this
okay.
context?
So say you're in a situation and like a teaching situation, and you're like, I got no money, I got no staff, I have a limited number of kids. Like,
Oh, okay.
I feel like there's an art to taking what you have and making something out of it. And I think there's
absolutely.
something like
No, that makes.
But that takes a lot of work, and people don't like that.
Oh my gosh, yeah, for sure. But I think that's like absolutely a worthwhile pursuit.
No, absolutely, but
Because-
it's just crazy to me that people don't think it is, and then people try to tell me, well, I do, and it's like, well, if you did, then you wouldn't be making excuses. Like it's obviously it's going to be work and it's going to take time, but like if you really want to do this, like then you'll do it. It's like we were talking about it. I don't know if I showed you the clip, but it's like this clip of Donald Glover, Childish Gambino, talking about how people ask him like, oh, what microphone do you use? What camera do you use? Like, what do you record on? What do you do this? And he's like, none of that matters. It's just like, do you want to do it? Yes, then you'll figure out a way to do it. Like you said, limitation breeds creativity. If you don't have all these things, are you just going to sit around and cry about it, or are you going to do something about it? And that's fundamentally where I'm always stuck in the middle between like being compassionate with people and understanding their situations, but also being like, I understand your situation, but if you really want to be the educator you claim you want to be, then none of this should matter. Like you should just understand that it's going to be hard. It's going to be a trip, and like you have to do what you have to do to recruit for your program. Because if not, then why are you even here? Like, why are you even trying? Like it's going to fall apart if you're not going to put the effort in, regardless of what resources you have. So, like, I mean,
It's also an example thing. If the students and even their staff
Yep.
see you doing what needs to be done, they will do what needs to be done. If they see you looking for ways to get out of doing what needs to be done or making excuses,
There will always
like and it's harder. It's definitely harder to build. It's harder to build than it is to tear down. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
way
there's
harder.
there's a demonstration. I think that you did, Mark, when I was like a freshman, and you had it was like we were the whole percussion section was fighting each other, and we were all in turmoil, and you had like you stood on a chair and told somebody to pull you down, and they pulled you down without a problem, and then you had to do the same thing in reverse, and you had them stand on the chair and said, now pull me up, or the other way around, some way like that. But you did some demonstration.
That sounds
that sounds
psychotic.
profound.
But it was like the demonstration of like it's a lot easier for to get somebody to if
It's a lot easier to knock somebody over than it is to pick them up.
exactly that's what I'm trying- yeah.
Yeah, that sounds
right.
Man, I'm smart.
Yeah, so like, and like the negativity in the entire ensemble was breeding. I don't know what the word is now.
And if that doesn't work, my next go-to play is, well, I'll just make them hate me so much that they don't have time to hate each other.
Yeah,
The other thing on the recruiting front, the other thing that I see as I think is a failure, especially in the band world, is not treating your members like people and lying to them. Just if you just honest,
the biggest one.
if you're just if you exude honesty and you treat them like people, like
Yeah.
you've gone like you've gone most of the way there.
everybody's had an experience at a restaurant, at a job where like the management doesn't really care about the employees; they just care about the job.
And then
Restaurants
lies
are-
to you.
Restaurants are great examples of this, but like if you're lying to your employees, you're gonna have mad employees. But if you're honest to them, then it's
And it's not just lying. It's
Oh, wait,
you know,
slightly less.
I know band directors who be like, man, it's so much fun. It's a lot of fun, and everyone knows. And these bands are just they need to learn how to do band before
learning how to do fun.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, they need to
Yeah.
learn how to do band first, but they'll lie to them and say it's so much fun. It's such a great community, and when they get there, they end up realizing
Wait,
this
we
is
gotta-
the
we gotta
this is
do
the
work?
yeah this is
Yeah.
the crap that I thought it was. This
Yeah.
bando, the geeky kind of peripheral
Yeah.
kind of activity that they thought it was.
sure.
And
Yeah.
and that's just lying.
Yeah,
Like,
you
don't do that.
got to make it band and not a social club with extra steps. You know,
Yeah.
like it,
Yeah.
it yeah.
I also think because I also think real fun is like accomplishing something and being proud of it.
sure.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
real fun.
But-
Fake fun is like hanging out. I mean, it's fun hanging out with your friends, but if you need to like carry around a saxophone and throw on a band uniform to do that, that's kind of weird.
Surely one of the most profound things. It sounds weird, but one of the most profound things that one of my mentors said to me is, "Look, it's fun to be good. It's not fun to suck. It's as simple as that."
Yeah.
Yeah.
sure.
I think it's just the distinction between the line and like where people like try to live within that threshold, because like you mentioned the treating people like people thing, and it's crazy. Like if I had to pick a conversation I've had thousands of times, it's that with like people that have been, on my staff or staffs I've been on, or people even above me that I've had to talk to and been like, hey, like I worked with an ensemble a couple years ago where I had to tell one of the staff members to stop calling the kids stupid, and it was like crazy to me because it's like in my head I was just like, and I wanted to say this out loud, but I like obviously like trying to be as professional as I can. It's like, if I called you stupid right now for educating the way you do, would you like that as
Yeah,
a grown
and actually-
person?
and
And,
those
then they
kids-
were like, I knew they were
Yeah.
gonna give me the look like, no, like why would you call me that? It's like, how do you think these kids feel? Like they come here to pay money and you're calling them stupid. And this is the fourth conversation we've had about this, and it's your method is clearly not working. Like where in your
Right.
brain do you? How do these things come together? Like
And honestly, those kids' role is more important than yours.
I mean, they don't even.
So
I-
from that standpoint, they're kind of your boss. I mean, obviously, you're not gonna, they have learnings that they're gonna be drawing from you, but
It's like, also,
but
why are
they
you
have a
here?
different role, right?
Yeah, like-
they have a different role in producing the product, and they're actually more important to that product than you are.
and I'm trying to make that point so many times, but we were at a point where it was kind of towards the end of the season. And I was like, I kind of just had to like be mother and like shield them from all this. Or like after she would have like a conversation and call them stupid, I would have to come down and be like, all right, guys, like we got it. Let's get it together. Let's get like honed in. Let's like, why we're here. We're going to do this. I had to like save the situation every time. In my head, it's just like, it's crazy how common decency is absent from like a lot of people because they're so bandoed out. They're like, oh, we got to do this. We got to do this. And like this specific person was also just like had never wasn't walking the talk. Like they had never walked the talk they were committing to. They had never held themselves to the same standard that they were holding the kids to, and the kids knew that. So it was like amplifying the situation.
Lying.
Times a million. And it was like they're not
hypocrisy.
stupid. Like they know, and like I'm telling you that I also know, and the rest of the staff knows because they've all told you. And this is still like an issue, and it caused like a huge rift in the staff. And it's like, I can't believe I have to tell people that you're not supposed to call kids stupid. Like,
Yeah.
it's like you could get mad at a kid or whatever, but like you don't know if that kid's getting called stupid at home. Like there are parents that mistreat their children and call their kids
That's true.
stupid, and they have to they come here to escape from that, and then you're still calling them stupid. Like it gets to the point where like obviously like I get so frustrated that like I like broke my phone that season because I launched it at the wall because I was so in between the like power structure where I couldn't get rid of this person, and I also like could constantly bring it up and have meetings about it, but I just couldn't make the final decision. And it was like, man, like I'm not trying to like have a god complex or anything, but it's like there should be a fundamental understanding that like if there's anybody being degenerate to the kids, like and especially like it would be worse because I would be degenerate towards this person and then they would get mad at me, and it's like, you know how that makes you feel? That's how you're making all these kids feel, and they just wouldn't make the link. Like
Yeah, no, I understand that completely.
Oh,
it's
man.
like
Crazy.
knowing that you got to do something for like the good of the ensemble, but like just not being able to do anything. You just have to like run with it. Like that.
it's just incompetence.
That
like
feeling sucks.
And it's also just common decency. Like we talk about band and like achievement and all that, but it's literally like you wouldn't talk like that to your mom, your sister, I don't know, the person at Darone's, 7-Eleven, whatever.
Their age and
You
experience
can-
is less.
On
That's
the
it.
other end of that spectrum, though, you can also be damaged to the ensemble by being too positive.
For sure.
Because basically, what I always try to walk the line of is just honesty. Because one thing that's frustrating with lessons, and I try to get in front of it when kids come in and sign up for new lessons here, is I try to talk to the parent and be like, we are not here to entertain your kid. And this isn't always fun. Sometimes it's work.
Oh, actually, I do have a story there.
You know what I mean? And like, I do think that sometimes people think that, taking music lessons or marching drum corps is supposed to be fun all the time. And it's not.
So
like,
you
a
don't-
lot of it is just work.
You don't correlate positivity with honesty?
Well, yes, but I mean positivity in like,
Because I think the positivity you're thinking is deception.
Well,
No, what he's saying is, I think,
well,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Like
It's-
like telling if it was a bad rep and being like, great job, guys.
yeah.
Like that.
But
That's-
I think
that's lying.
I don't think that's positive
lying,
though. That's
yeah.
negativity. That's dishonesty. I think that's negative.
But I think
don't
it's
that's
it's
positive.
it's like fake positivity.
Like in telling them the truth, you're being respectful.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's kind of like, it's kind of like parents who are friends with their kids, and then there's parents who raise their kids.
Yeah.
Like it's like that kind of thing. Like sometimes you need to tell them the truth even when it's inconvenient or it hurts.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is like, so you don't think friends are honest with people? Like, just because they're friends with their kids, they wouldn't be honest with their kids? The way you
I
pose
mean,
that
I'm
scenario.
speaking
No, I know,
generally.
but that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to gauge what like positivity and like the correlation
Here's,
and all
can, I,
these
can I
things.
tell you a little
Yeah.
story about I think it's a scenario that illustrates this pretty well. So this is back in the decades ago now, I think. Decade ago. I
turn back time.
Yeah, if I was working with the Williamsport crew, and I had a parent. I mean, you guys know you've been on staffs with the marching activity for quite a while now, especially with secondary school, high school kids, right? And sometimes you get more nervous for it than they do, right? I'm sitting there pulling my hair because I don't know, because things have been shaky for the past couple weeks, and I don't know which band I'm getting tonight, right? And it was a terrible show. It was a train wreck, and not for lack of ability. It was just they had a bad night. Things happen, right? And I'm sitting here pulling my hair out, and I had a parent come up to me, and I was shaking my head. And I said, "All right," and I said to this parent, I said, "We're gonna have to have a little bit of a come to Jesus today because we've got to figure out this performance anxiety issue that they have." And he said to me, "At least they're out there having fun, though." And I said, I can't say his first name. I said what his name was, Jim. Do they look like they're having fun right now? I was like, oh, well, no, I guess not. I said, just being honest with them, this wasn't a fun night. We're going to make this fun. It will be fun when they feel success, but they are not feeling success, and it's not fun to suck.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So success breeds success. Don't lie to your members.
It's perfectly okay to push kids if there's passion driving it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's not like a thirst for authority and like I don't know what.
Oh, that gets me so revved up.
That's a
But
different story altogether, right?
Yeah, but I mean
It's like the clout at band thing. It's like you want to be an authoritarian at
Yeah,
band, like
yeah.
you go be a cop, go be
Like,
a
have you seen
security
my
guard.
resume?
Like
do you know how good my flam drags are?
it's like
Respect me.
it's I literally just laugh in people's faces at this point because it's like you're a joke. Like you're
Yeah. No, it's if it's actual. I mean, I always try to create the environment. I'm not saying I'm always successful or anything like that, but I always try to create
None of
the
us are.
environment. Like it's not me. If you're teaching and it feels like it's me against the kids, you're not doing something right. Mm-hmm. Like it should feel like it's me and the kids against the world.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if
That's a good way to put it.
if there's
I like that.
some dynamic, and I've been in ruts where it felt like that at times, where like I was trying to go to a place that the kids didn't want to go, and I felt like I was dragging them. But I don't know. I for me, it's always one thing I always tell people is like I'll be whoever you need me to be. I'll be like people ask me like, what's your teaching style? I was like, I'm a chameleon. Like I don't have one. Like
That's what it
I
should
will
be.
be. I'll be a drill sergeant. I'll be a cheerleader. I'll be a therapist. I'm not good at that, but I'll do my best. Whatever I like. My goal is to make you as good as I can make you. So I'll do whatever I got to do
to get you there.
To get there, you know what I mean? And and hopefully working with you and explaining why I'm doing things. And one thing I also think is really important is like, there will be days where I'll be like on somebody. Like today's the day, line in the sand, we're fixing this tonight. And I'll be on them. But what's really important, and I think a lot of people don't do, is at the end of that, pulling that kid and having a conversation and saying, hey, look, great job tonight. That was tough, whatever, but you stuck with it. You kept pushing. And I'll tell the kids too, like, when I'm pushing, you need to push back. Like, I don't want you to roll over. I want you to push back. Like, give me that energy back. Let's get fired up and let's go. And just, you need a little bit of that. You need a little bit of that chip on your shoulder energy to drum at the levels you want to sometimes. But you also have to like be realistic with the ensemble you have and build up to that. I mean, that's never like year one.
But I think it could be year one. It's just like at 10% or 20%.
Yeah, it depends.
Like it's like the mindset could still be there. It's just like raising it every year.
But that little one-off conversation you have with that kid, you know what? That was a good job today. So much more meaningful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or there was like a, I don't want to say his name because I don't want to embarrass him, but there was a student at Wayne Sport a couple years ago who like, he got thrown into the snare line with some kids who had been playing together for a couple years, and they were winning drums. Like they had been doing that for a while. And it was like going into it, I was like, look, for you to get where we need you to be, to hang and do what we want to do, this is going to be tough.
Yep.
Like you're not going to like me sometimes. Like
Most times.
like it's going to be, I was like, so I just want to make sure you understand what you're signing up for. Cause I don't want to do it if you're not going to, if you're going in blind. Like you need to understand exactly what this is. Like, I think you can do this, but I don't think you're going to like it all the time.
Yeah.
And he did it. And there were times where like, it was literally everything's clicking and there's just that kid. And I'm like, it's you, man. It's just you. Like we got, just getting on him and rep after rep after rep, just working it. And he got there and we won drums that year. Which is, I mean, bonus, great, whatever. But we're coming off the field and we got off the field and we're like, in the little behind the end zone thing, everybody's like taking off their gear and whatever. And I just went up to him and I was like, yo, man, I'm proud of you. And he just started bawling. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh man. And then like I'm tearing up.
Feelings.
Oh man.
What are these feelings?
But like that's all I said was like, yo, man, I'm proud of you. And that's all it took. And all that came out. And it was really cool. Really cool moment.
That was a rough year for him.
Yeah. But he
fought. He did not back down at all. The entire year.
Such a fighter, and never.
Awesome.
Yeah, like I mean, there were times like he would get frustrated with himself. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't like, but it was cool to. We had to push him, like to the point where like, it wasn't always comfortable for me. Like sometimes I would come home and be like, I think I'm asking too much of this kid. Mm-hmm. Like maybe that was too much tonight. Maybe I made a mistake here. Maybe, you know what I mean? And like but I was like, I can't go into rehearsal like appearing to think like that. I got to go in like this was the plan and we have confidence. Yep. There were times where I had like, man, I don't know. I think I messed up.
He demonstrated though that you inspired him enough that he wanted it at least as much or more than you did.
Yeah,
which is what you want.
And that's another thing too. I use this to motivate kids all the time. Is I'll go in and like, don't ever let me care more about how good you are than you do.
Right. Yes.
Like that is stupid.
I care now.
Like don't let me care more about how good you play than you do. That like why would you ever let somebody care more than you do about how you do? And just like
I always throw I'm getting paid for this in their face. I'd be like, you could not care. I'm getting paid anyway. Like
tens and tens.
Yeah, getting tens and tens and 15s of dollars. Like. And it's just like, and that sometimes gets them a little fired up because they're like, oh, he might not actually care. Let me show him that I care. And then that kind of like I reverse psychology it. But like, you're right. It's just the reciprocation of energy. And like, again, it's like I would attribute probably like 90% of good education to that. Like, it's just a mindset of like showing up and being there as much as you want them to be there.
So these are recruiting tips, right? So for all you band people,
care.
Those members are people too. The kids are people too.
You got to bring it. You got to bring it all the time, even when you don't want to bring it. Even when you've worked back-to-back Taco Bell shifts and you don't feel like teaching drums.
Yeah.
Always got.
But back to that. My recommendation is don't get the kids to commit to being in band. Get them to commit to coming to rehearsal. And then you have to make sure that you have a good plan for that rehearsal. And they need to feel like they learned something and accomplished something that day.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can't show up and spend the entire day playing 8 on a hand. Like you have to, even if you need to backpedal after that, the only mission you have at that point is to get them to like it and see the value in it so they want to stick with it.
Yeah.
Then you can back up and do more fundamental stuff and do, really get into the weeds of that stuff. But if they don't see the point in it, they're not going to go there with you.
Yeah. I think actually another really big one is getting I every time there's like new people, I mean I've never had a situation where like this hasn't worked out because new people come in every day, but every time there's a new person I would get everybody on the same page before they showed up, been like, hey, you guys understand we need people, we're really trying to fill out this ensemble, we want to be bigger so we can be better and we can produce all these different things, like let's be inviting, let's like show him how we actually are, don't be scared, don't try to be cliquey, don't try to be cool like you guys pretend to be, like we all know we're all band nerds, like we're all here to have fun and play music, like display that to them, like bring them into, and like we would do icebreakers, and every time I would make sure that they felt like, especially with the friend thing, like if they feel like they're making friends and like they're being cared for, and like there's, I mean obviously the whole complex with attention, like kids like, I mean people like attention, so it's like if they feel like they're being attended to and they're learning something, then that just amplifies their want to come back even more, even if they weren't really feeling it or don't feel too good about how good they are at drums, like they're like, oh, people here care, I'll get better, I'll do this, like I'll make friends, I'll have a good time. So like the ice breaking thing is also huge. Like if you just get everybody on the same page before and get them to kind of gang up on this new person and be like, hey, like we're excited to have you, can't wait to drum with you, this and this.
Yeah.
And like stuff like that also works for me too.
Cool. Anything else for the good of the order?
That Blue Devils thing was my idea.
All right.
Yeah. Hey.
But I'm the one I put this. You got to give me credit for the conspiracy theory.
You know what? I'm glad you did it because that made it all the more better.
All right. Well, I guess that wraps it up for Rough Times this week. You got to figure out how to end these things. I'm not. What do you say?
Stop talking.
I don't know if I've ever watched a podcast to the end.
Yo, what's up, epic community? Thanks for watching. Hit that like and subscribe
Actually,
button.
he's got it.
There is
Oh
one.
yeah. Like, subscribe,
Do the things.
share,
Ring the bell.
ring the bell.
Get mad and put
Yeah.
some comments on there.
So we got to step up the comment. Apparently we're not making people mad enough because they're not commenting yet.
We gotta start using first names.